Gospel, light of the temple. Sword swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Black burial, the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Dave One. And this is episode number... Yo, Cam ain't here today. We got a guest on the board over there. Yo, Melissa, what episode is this? 94. Cam's had an important meeting today. He's making moves in his life. So I don't know how much longer Cam's going to be my engineer, editor. What else does Cam do? Just about everything.
Dance choreographer,
everything. Cam just does about everything. If I lose Cam, yeah, man, it's going to be rough. Melissa, you're going to have to fill in every time doing everything. So I hope you can do it. So everybody out there, you know, if you haven't subscribed to the show, please subscribe. If you can, send it to somebody. If you hear a podcast that you think they might enjoy, send it to them. Ask them to subscribe. We're trying to get that subscribers up on every platform, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We do really good on Spotify, which is pretty cool. I like that platform, especially with the video. If you checked out the last episode 93, we had Mr. Big Faith. Sounds kind of odd, but the kid was really dope. I mean, he's a hustler, 24-year-old from San Gabriel Valley, rapper, just making it happen for himself. Build his own whole platform by himself pretty much. But go check out that podcast, really good podcast. Go follow him, really good dude. But we have a return guest today. I think we've only... How many return guests have we had, Melissa? We had Taco God. We had you. Adam. And I think that's it. So this guy right here is on an exclusive list to the Street Gospel Podcast. And it's crazy because out of everybody, I mean, I think his status kind of went up a little bit since the last... It's been over 2 years.
I was going to say, I don't remember where I was at career-wise last time we were here.
Okay,
I think I was like just getting into this.
There is a lot of things. Yeah, you were barely were starting out with your contributing. I mean, I don't know what do you actually call what you do?
Well, first things first. I think my career just got launched on the Street Gospel Podcast.
Oh.
That's I was nobody.
That's amazing.
And then I came on this show and just blew up.
You're welcome, Charlie Kirk. Look at that. You're welcome. But some other things changed for you too. You're married, but you're father.
Yeah.
Now so that's changed.
Almost a 1-year-old. Yeah.
Cute baby girl, man.
Oh, we love her.
I just saw the video with the eggs falling into the.
Yeah.
So she has a little bin on. It's like rubber, and then all the food falls here, Melissa. I mean, how come they didn't have this stuff when we had kids?
It feels like every next decade of parents and kids have the where was that when I was a parent?
That's weird.
Like
sure.
Like our friends in we have a Bible group, and some of our friends they've got kids that are 12, 13, and even that far removed, they're like, this wasn't around. And then you go all the way to my parents, and they're like, yeah, we
have nothing.
Yeah, we just had you sleep on the floor. Like what?
we didn't have seat belts in the car.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's like get in the back of the truck. Let's go for a little spin.
Yeah.
But Jobob, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, thanks. I there's no shortage of things to talk about right now.
I thought for sure after the last, 7 days, 8 days, you were going to be just like totally bombarded. I asked you last week, but you were at this like convention thing, right?
Yeah,
was it like a Comic-Con or what was it?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. We had the world's most famous stand-up comedian at the RNC, and I say that affectionately. I think Donald Trump is in effect a stand-up comedian.
Is it more okay? You do comedy. Is it more dry comedy, or is it just because there's dry comedy and they do it on purpose? I don't think he tries to be funny, but it just comes out funny.
I think I don't know that he plans it as much, but I do think he tries because you start to notice, and it's been more difficult over the last couple of years because he hasn't been doing as much.
Right.
But when he was on the campaign trail in circa 2016, even into 2020. You would notice, like, every stop, he would try and land a joke. And if the joke landed, he kept doing it. Like, he would try nicknames for people. Sleepy Joe Biden.
Little Marco Boy is my favorite one. Dude.
Yeah, and it would work or it wouldn't. And you effectively were watching the stand-up tour of the comedy stylings of Donald Trump, which I don't know if you necessarily want that in a president, but...
I know that's the thing. I think because you're a comedian, I play a comedian around people. I think though, when I get his humor.
Oh yeah.
But when I think of him presidentially, it's kind of like one of those things where I don't know, man. I couldn't see my pastor saying those things.
Totally, and that's where you kind of come to this impasse of well, is that quote unquote presidential? No, probably not. But also, is what is considered to be presidential the best thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe in a lot of cases, not necessarily. I think there's several presidents who are very presidential, suit and tie, all buttoned up, and we're horrible at the job. So maybe that's not a prerequisite for being a good commander in chief.
It's probably why people voted for him.
Oh, it's 100%.
Right?
Yeah. That's the whole thing. Is his kind of, and we haven't even really gotten into the partisan stuff, but just him. And the idea of sticking it to the man is the whole thing.
Right.
And it's weird because some people don't understand that. Some people really, really don't. I get it. People really, really love the guy or really, really hate the guy. I'm friends with everybody. I don't care one way or the other. Obviously, I have my opinion. But it really is an interesting thing to observe somebody who feels so passionately without understanding that, okay, this is all entertainment effectively.
Right.
It's all marketing.
Right.
And to have your feelings be so impacted by that is an odd thing.
Okay, I know what you said, sticking it to the man. I think most people think, how could a billionaire stick it to the man if he is the man?
Is the man.
Right?
There was a Dave Chappelle bit on SNL where he was trying to explain to lefty America why people are so infatuated with Donald Trump. And his kind of explanation was, this guy got so much traction because he said all of the people inside the house are corrupt. And the reason I know that is because I'm also in the house. And I'm using all of the corrupt tactics that all of the people that you despise are using.
Right.
And then that explanation is pretty good when it comes to a lot of people who, again, are really, really hot to trot about the guy taking it to the man. Yeah,
you got to be inside to know what's going on inside.
Oh yeah, of course. And that's not even politics. That's every industry. Every industry, the guy who's doing the thing is going to know more about the thing than people outside of it.
That's the whistleblower. He's inside. He knows that what's going on. He's going to say something. If he's not inside, it's very hard.
It's compelling.
James O'Keefe. That's how he makes his videos. He gets somebody inside, get somebody to talk, and then you get
Well, it's compelling, and if there's an authority on, let's say, I don't know, particular type of construction that you work in, I'm going to trust you more than I'm going to trust my wife, who's a therapist. There's a certain amount of I know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah,
that people are like, oh yeah, he must know what he's talking about.
So you were at the RNC last week.
I was at the RNC last week.
You're within. I think I texted you were within earshot on that first night.
So that was a joke that I repeated several times. I thought I was being funny, and you already had that. Good. No, I didn't have that.
Oh, you didn't have that.
Yeah, I got it. I stole it from you.
Yes,
I was telling because I was like, so. Let me back up. Let me back up.
Okay.
So Saturday happens, and I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, but if you are,
it's dropping immediately.
Yeah, we're 9 days removed-ish from the assassination attempt, which was crazy. I don't know about you, but I went through a myriad of emotions.
It was wild.
And I don't even know if my political leanings really even affected those emotions at all. I think it was just, holy cow, where are we? It was so much so that I was playing at church on Sunday, and I kind of had a little emotional breakdown outside.
Ooh, yeah.
Just because of what was happening, and then I was leaving for the RNC for 5 days, and it was less about like a safety concern and more about like feeling wholly inadequate to be in the middle of this. Because I think I probably mentioned last time, because I mentioned this pretty much everywhere. I still think it's crazy that I get to do the stuff that I get to do. And it to me, being the person that it's happening to, it feels like it should be happening to somebody else, like getting all of these opportunities to go do this, and this. And after Saturday, after the assassination attempt, it was a very big, where are we as a country as a whole right now? And two, like, how do I navigate this? Because not unfortunately, but it is a situation that I'm involved in whether I like it or not. Like the next day I'm going to the RNC, and 48 hours after the assassination attempt, I was effectively in the presidential box. I wasn't actually in the presidential box. I kind of maneuvered my way.
Close enough.
I maneuvered my way into the reserve seats. I was sitting right behind Charlie Kirk, and the row in front of him was Tucker, Trump, and Byron Donalds and J.D. Vance. And so, yeah, it was this weird feeling of like, yeah, this is crazy, and it's crazy to be living through this, but also like, I don't know how to handle this.
Wow.
Because it's a weird thing when people listen to you. And I know that's what a lot of people want. A lot of people strive for attention. A lot of people strive to be influential. And then when you're kind of there, and I'm not saying I'm anywhere near like Charlie or Tucker or any of those people, but when there are a handful of people that actually are tuned into what you're doing, it's a kind of a responsibility thing. You're like, oh, like I don't know if I've ever wanted this.
It is. I felt the same way. Like that when it happened. I think I was just watching TV and somebody posted it. And I was like, what is this? Is this true?
Yeah.
And then I went to the room and I said, hey, I think this is going on. I showed Melissa and she looked it up. She goes, hey, yes. And we were just like, and at first I'm like, you know, I get it. I think that was like totally honest what you just said right now, because being a believer, being a father, being in where people look to you. I mean, I'm not saying the same thing. I'm not saying everybody looks at me, but there's people that follow me. I
Even if
speak
there's
out
2
on a
or
lot of
3
stuff.
people, like it's still somebody.
You're trying to be responsible in your response. Like your flesh.
And I don't know if
to be like out there, but then you're like, okay, I got to be cool about my. And even on the podcast, I posted a picture of the iconic picture, right? I posted that, and I just put praying hands. Well, lost some followers right away.
Yeah, jeez.
You know, and then on my personal, I posted that same picture, and I was like, "Where are we?" And I put, "Where are we at now as a country?" Like basically, like what are we doing?
Yeah,
you know. And you still get people that, oh yeah, why did you post that? And it's crazy because you try to stay in the middle, you can't.
Well, it's not even really in the middle. And to what to your point of like, yeah, you got to be responsible. I don't know that I was. I was like so fired up. I was fired up. I know I said at this point, not voting for this guy is un-American.
I saw that.
And
that was probably the most leaning way that you've ever went that I've seen you.
Specifically for Trump, because I know he's a polarizing figure, which I would love to talk to you more about, because I don't know that he actually is as polarizing as people think.
Okay.
But
we'll get into
aside that, my initial reaction was like, this is un-American. And then I thought about it a little more, and I was like, was that too much? And I was like, no, I'm doubling down. And here's what I meant by not American. Is like the idea of the founding is such that we have a restrained government in order to preserve freedom. And with all of the things going on, I'm talking about the guilty verdict in the felony trial, the assassination attempt, which, you know, you can say, well, that's a lone person. It's indicative of the entire system of how much failure there is as a whole. So the bottom line is I basically was doubling down saying, you can believe all of the things that you want policy-wise, because we're past the point of policy, at least I think, and I still think that right now. We're past the point of, well, I think the border should be closed, the border should be open. No, we're into the area of, are we a good country? And I would say yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that would say no. And I've talked to these people on college campuses at protests and all this sort of stuff. And so at that point in time, my thought was, and I had also read a bunch of stuff on Twitter saying, how could he miss? And that stuff was like, all right, okay, cool. So this, good, bad, ugly, emotional, whatever it is, that was okay, you were either for the founding or you were against the founding.
Right.
We're not even talking.
Okay, let's go one step further. Right?
Yeah.
Because this is what I think we're at.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like good versus evil.
I'm super hesitant to say that,
Okay.
and I also don't necessarily disagree.
Do you think? Okay, but I mean, I know what you're saying by being hesitant, but I think we're like, at least we keep walking in that direction where it's not even like Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. It's like almost to the point like it's like good versus evil. Like if you say they shouldn't have missed, I mean, where is your heart? Where is your mind at? I mean, because I know what you're going to say. If it was Biden, we would have been like, whoa, like this
you can't do that.
Yeah, this is all bad.
Not good.
And a lot of people ask me that. If it was Biden, would you have said that? I said, yes, I would have.
Yeah.
Honest
100%.
to God,
Yes.
I would have said that. But people are like double down the opposite way and said, well, I wish they wouldn't have missed.
Well, so take into account the rhetoric that's been going on, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here because everybody has been talking about this for this whole week. But like, think of it in terms of actuality. If you've been told that this person is the next Hitler or an existential threat to the American experiment, if you've been told that, and if you believe that, what other option do you have than to take that guy out? And I'm not justifying it all. I completely and wholly disagree with those people.
Right.
But if you believe it, I don't think you're left with many options. And that's where I think the problem is that people actually think that the election of a guy is going to turn their entire lives upside down. That's just factually accurate.
Good or bad.
Well, and look, like, Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris wins, well, that's any politician, whether or not they win or lose, yeah, it's going to be some ups and some downs. But to say that they're going to put people in concentration camps, which is Rachel Maddow said something about like what if he deports me?
The View people are just crazy right now.
Well, yeah. So, but if you actually believe that, like, I'm not justifying it, but it makes sense.
If you got some guy that's not all there,
Totally,
and you totally. I mean, this kid, 20 years old. For 8 years since he was a young kid, he's been. I don't want to say indoctrinated, but
that's a pretty good term for it.
Brainwashed all the way through, and he thinks, I just think like maybe he sees like, the part that in Saving Private Ryan, and Barry Pepper, he's the sniper, and he's going, put me in 1 mile of Adolf Hitler, and that's it, boys, pack it up, war's over.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this kid is probably thinking like, here's Adolf Hitler. I'm going to save the world by shooting Trump.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Like, I don't know if that's crazy, but that's
no, it's not crazy.
That's
what I'm saying. This whole thing, and again, I hate to sound like I'm justifying. I'm just saying, if you actually think that, which again I do not, because I'm gonna have to put so many disclaimers in this. I'm just extending the thought experiment to its fullest extent. Great use of words there. Extended to the extent. But if you actually work your entire way through it, it's okay. So let me just use another example to get off of the assassination thing.
Okay.
Joe Biden, love him or hate him, when they passed the election integrity bill in Georgia, said that this is Jim Crow on steroids. So not Jim Crow, where they lynched black people in the streets, scared them away from the polls. Jim Crow South was awful. Everyone agrees.
Yes.
So it's not that. It's the extended version of that. Like, oh my gosh, are they just shooting black people in the streets? No. They have to show an ID to vote. Like, okay.
Right.
So if the rhetoric is going to be that inflamed on the simplest of things, well, what are you going to expect of the people? Fortunately, most people understand politics and go like, yeah, that's just how politicians talk.
Right.
But there are those crazy people who will do things that are crazy.
And Biden said, a couple days before?
Oh, yeah, the bullseye.
The bullseye. We need to put Trump in the bullseye. And I'm like...
Yeah, I don't... If I'm being intellectually fair, I don't hate that. I mean, in hindsight, yeah, that's not a great way to put things.
Okay,
but I understand because he didn't actually mean that. Like he didn't actually mean.
I don't think
the
he means
crosshairs.
anything he says.
Yeah, well, there's that whole aside to it. But he didn't actually mean physically attack the president by putting him in the in the same way that Trump didn't mean bloodbath when he said bloodbath. Like politicians don't mean the extent of the hyperbolic language that they use. But at the same time, if you're going to police, if you're going to repeat the lie that Trump said it's a bloodbath or going to be a bloodbath, when he was clearly talking about the economy and the auto industry and imports from China, then okay, well, yeah, now that becomes a bad thing.
Right.
If you're going to keep the things standard, that's when you're going to have a problem, especially spinning it to the side that you want. Which is why everything's got to be as obviously I have a perspective, but there's no use in not being fair about things.
I don't think they've been fair for a while.
No, they haven't.
Right?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
That's the problem.
Well, and this is
I'm okay for calling if Trump says something stupid. Of course, let's call him out about it.
Oh, I think he sticks his foot in his mouth all the time.
Right, and
there are things that he says that I go, dude, like you're making it harder.
Like stop
for me. You're making it harder for me to make the case on your behalf.
Right. I think that's what made his RNC speech good.
Yeah,
because he didn't go there. He was very subdued.
Yeah,
compared to normal Trump, and then I think he was like a little bit humbled and like, "Yo, I could have got killed."
I hate this, but it's just true. I hate being like those people that are like, "Oh, you have to go to this European place," and then they're really just telling you that they were there. That's all they're trying to do. Like I hate this, but it's just true. Being there was nuts. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced in the context of public figures, politics, policy. The room was just felt different, and I
that's what they said. That's what I heard.
Well, and I got a vantage point from all. I started the speech up in the radio media section up in the rafters, and then ended on the floor. And everywhere, every single person was like, "Whoa! Like this is a weird feeling."
Yeah,
and I don't mean weird in a negative way.
I think even CNN said that. They had to admit. I think Van Jones said that. I think he was like, "Yeah, this is different. We're in trouble."
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a weird, not weird. I keep saying weird. There's an interesting dynamic that happens in presidential races that you saw during the Clinton campaign, during the Bush campaign, during the Obama campaign, that you kind of just feel everything coming together. Because on the Republican side and the Democrat side, not everybody agrees on everything. There's huge factions, different coalitions, different places. It's the side who can coalesce at one point that ends up usually winning. And the RNC was the first time in Republican politics that I've ever seen that there was that intangible emotional component that you can't recreate, you can't
generate
explain
that.
it. Yeah, it just happens or it doesn't. And that was there. And so yeah, being in the room when he was going through that first 15, 20 minutes of the shooting was like that was moving. I hate saying like I don't want to sound, too mushy about it, but it was a moving experience.
You can feel it through the TV. So I can only imagine being there. It's going to be more intense. I mean, but it was like I was pretty impressed with the way he started. That he didn't go on the, a little bit freestyled a little bit on a couple of things, but he didn't go like Trump goes, and then he didn't start name calling and start bagging. He starts bagging on people. Then he gets a couple laughs, and like you said, he gets going.
He gets going. It was crazy in the room too. You can there's the way the cameras are all set up. There's the teleprompters that are on the side of him, and then there's a teleprompter in the back of the room. And for several long stretches of time, that teleprompter didn't move. He was just off on a this, that, and a this. There was one where he started acknowledging people that were there and helped him out, and it went from like something about I think the firefighter, and then transitioned into J.D. Vance.
Okay,
and it sat on talking about J.D. Vance for I think 10 minutes. Because then he went on and thanked Dana White. He thanked Kid Rock, Hulk Hogan, his family. He just went completely off script. But there That's to be expected, I think.
Yeah.
Of him.
Okay, so if you mentioned a few people, and I was going to bring them up.
Uh-huh.
Thoughts on Hogan at the RNC? Your real thoughts. I mean, I'm not talking about your 13-year-old WrestleMania watching.
That was cool.
Right?
I don't know if I mentioned this. I have no idea what I talked about last time, but I usually in kind of the 30,000-foot view conversation bring up the fact that the lefty side of politics and Democrats as a whole are so good at the emotional component. There is, if you have time, go watch Barack Obama's entrance into the 2008 DNC at Mile High Stadium. It was in the basketball arena for the first 3 days, and then they moved it to the stadium, which is crazy.
Right.
And they showed this beautifully done video that, he's shaking hands with old people, kissing babies, all the thing, plays the cool music. And then the U2 song swells in the back. The aerial camera pans around the audience, and then he comes out. They cut to Michelle. She's so proud. They come to Joe Biden. It's beautiful.
Right.
Politics aside, it was moving.
Yeah.
And then in that same year, if you go watch John McCain go receive the nomination, it is a single camera bust shot of this old dude walking out to the podium, and nobody is excited.
Yeah.
All of that is to say that, and I kind of touched on it a little bit, that at the RNC this year, there was that intangible emotional feel that we just have never had. And unfortunately, it probably came about because of some really terrible circumstances, what happened the Saturday before.
For sure.
But that all ties into the Hulk Hogan thing, right? Nobody, I don't think, after a Republican National Convention in years past have been fired up. Nobody was walking out of that arena fired up, except for this year. Because we saw Hulk Hogan rip off his shirt. We saw Dana White just go nuts on the thing. And Dana had posted his travel from where he was on the helicopter.
Insane.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Trump, the guy who
from
just
the yacht.
The guy who gets shot in the face less than a week before that, people were walking out of that arena just fire. I hadn't slept in days at that point,
right?
And I was ready to go party.
I thought it was okay. Kid Rock,
yeah,
great. I've loved Kid Rock since I was young. I mean, he's been around forever, but it was great. I was like, that's Kid Rock, and I think the thing is sometimes you get especially on the Democratic side, they bring an actor in, or they bring Beyonce or whoever, and they act a certain way. I think that's who Terry Bollea is, Hogan, right?
Yeah.
That's really Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really who Dana White is. And so they're not faking it. It's who they are. The biggest one, and I wanted to ask you, okay, and Amber Rose.
Oh, jeez.
Did she? There was a. You talk about that. I think that was the only split at the RNC amongst contributors like yourself. There was a split between some of them. She doesn't belong here. Matt Walsh, a couple other people.
Yeah.
And you got Officer Tatum, and they're like, why not?
Yeah.
It was a great speech.
Yeah.
Where did she land for somebody that was in the arena?
Okay, so I as a political consultant, tactician, or whatever, the thing that gets under my skin the most from conservative politics is dying on a hill that won't win anything. In other words, if you're going to wield power effectively, first you have to gain power. And if that means aligning with some people, I don't necessarily want to say ideas, but if that means aligning in a way during an election year, or if that means maybe not being so loud and vocal about polarizing topics in an election year, but that means that you get to use that power, I'm all for it. And so Amber Rose, I am sure there are several life choices that I would not agree with that she has made.
Especially as a Christian father and husband.
And if she helps the conservative ideas win out, welcome to the party. Nobody's perfect. That's
right.
I think ultimately is nobody's perfect. And there are so much I heard this analogy a while ago, and I thought it was pretty appropriate for this sort of thing. You can if you're fighting the Nazis, you can charge up the hill at a tank with a stick and say that you were fighting you're going to get blown off the face of the earth almost immediately. But you can say that you fought the good fight. Or you can tactfully pull back, plan, coordinate, and ultimately, hopefully, win. Which of those two things is more advantageous to the forward progress of humanity? Right. Like, yeah, you can go die on that hill and say, well, so-and-so isn't exactly what I want. Right. And, okay, fine. I don't necessarily disagree with your points, but at the end of the day, if you make all the good points and lose, what have you done?
Yeah, because what is the purpose of, saying those points or talking to people about those policies or whatever it may be, views, whatever, in more conservative ways, and then what is the whole purpose? Like, what is the whole, like, it's like when we preach the gospel, like, what is the whole purpose is to win some people to the Lord. I'm not saying like she was won to the Lord, but what I'm saying is, like, you're spreading a message. Hey, listen, this is what we're about. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, yeah, I did my research and it was right. I'm a mother at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about what's going on in this country. I'm an atheist still. Sorry, everybody, and I'm still got my OnlyFans, right? Yeah. Whatever. But I mean, she came this side and she aligned with views, maybe not 100%, but it kind of aligned with what she believes in now. That's the whole purpose, right? To kind of pull people from that side to this side and understand, hey, this is what we're trying to tell you.
And there's a commentator that I really like who makes it a point to point out often that on Judgment Day, I don't get a vote. Like, this is not a collaborative process. Yeah. You are not being judged by me on Twitter. And so if that's the case, then what's the point of lashing out on Twitter?
Right.
I don't know. Again, like I said, there's so many things that we'd probably butt heads on. But did it damage anything? Like, I don't think it had a negative effect.
I don't think.
And if it didn't have a negative effect, well, did it have a positive effect? And probably. Like, there are probably people there.
I'm sure she has 1 million fans, right?
Oh yeah,
and I'm sure they're people, like, let me check this out.
I guarantee you, more people know who Amber Rose is than they do their own congressman. Seriously. And so if the goal is to win, right. Do you want to see, I don't know, congressman from District 4 in Indiana? And no shade to whoever is the congressman from District 4 in Indiana, but I don't know who that is.
Yeah, right.
And chances are the people in that district don't know who that is. And so, if the goal is to win, remember, you're competing in a sport. This is a sport. Then it's hard to denigrate it to a point where this can't happen. Like, well, it did, and who's worse off?
I didn't feel like it was forced. I didn't feel like it. I felt when McCain that one year he brought Daddy Yankee, and Daddy Yankee's like, "Go." Did you? I
don't remember that.
Daddy Yankee endorsed him, and McCain was like, Daddy Yankee, and I was like, bro, you do not even have no clue who this guy is. And Daddy Yankee walked up there, kind of like hesitant, like maybe somebody slid him some cash or something. He was like, okay, and it was like really weird, and I was like, that seemed forced.
Yeah, this actually is one of my pet peeves on conservative media. We do this thing where if anybody comes to our side of the aisle, they're immediately put on this like pedestal, which I understand. We want to show people that
Kanye.
We want to show those people that made that switch or that transition, for lack of a better term. But maybe we should hold off a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe let them simmer for a while. I don't know what that time frame is, but there's been several people that were, OnlyFans people, and now they're Christians, and that's great. I'm all about that. Yeah. Let's give them more than a week
before we put them on stage.
Yeah, before we start listening to everything they say. And again, this is anything. This is not necessarily just a religious conversation or a political conversation or an ideology conversation. It is if you're brand new at something, you shouldn't be teaching other people yet.
Pause.
Yeah, just live it for a little bit. Let it,
Let's see if you're sold out. This is for the long haul.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, of course.
I got a little bit of pushback on that. What I was I don't think I've said that publicly, but in private conversations, I've been like, maybe we just hold off a little bit. Not saying that we should never talk to these people because they're, I'm all about good testimonies, but also it's not uncommon that an addict goes back to their ways. Which
it is huge
I don't
in
want
the
that to
church.
happen.
It is huge in the church. Guy has a great testimony. Maybe he had a little stardom in the in his past life in the world. Gets saved, and within like a month, he's ministering at the men's conference.
Yeah,
and it's like, guys, can we just? I agree with that. Just hold off a little bit.
I don't know that it's bad.
Let them get some foundation.
I don't know that it's bad. I just don't know that it's the way that I would do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not condemning that by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose, I'm probably going to go with the more seasoned person that is a little bit rooted more in their beliefs.
Right.
And I don't know. I really am trying to not be like, well, that's no. It's all good. All people coming to the church or the conservative lifestyle.
Right.
All good. But you got to do a little bit more than dip your toe in it before you start splashing everybody.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so moving on from the RNC.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Joe.
Which one?
Joe Biden. Is he
dead? I don't know.
Alive?
When we're recording this, I don't know that he's alive.
I don't know either.
Like,
Nobody's
I
seen
don't.
him.
Yeah.
He supposedly has COVID.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe he has COVID?
Honestly, probably. I think I do.
Okay.
I don't. There are, and this is at the risk of going on into a different kind of rabbit hole here. In so many cases, the idea of conspiracy versus incompetence, like, never attribute to malice what could be attributed to incompetence. In other words, most of the time, they're probably not lying. They're probably just dumb. And in this particular case, I don't think that somebody's lying about Joe Biden having COVID. I think they just were, maybe this is not the best example for this, but I think he actually has COVID.
Yes. Okay.
And whether or not he's coherent at the moment, it could be that, in the last 15 minutes he could have popped up and gotten on camera. But even
we'll see.
Even your like non-conspiracy people are like Jonah Goldberg of the Dispatch, who is a serious person, tweeted something earlier, like a couple hours ago, saying, all right, it's getting a little weird. Like, maybe Joe Biden should get in front of a camera somewhere and say something.
Right.
And so even if he pops up and comes onto a camera, you still have that, okay, well, what was going on then? Right? Like, it doesn't make it okay.
Right.
And so what happened?
It seems like after the debate, it's been downhill for him. I don't know. Do you think, how much before the debate do you think it's been downhill and they just hit it really well?
Oh, dude, okay. I was talking to another friend about this who is not really in line with my thinking of things. And I made the point, I have been selling Joe Biden t-shirts for 3 years now. Yeah. Those didn't just sell because people wanted to think that or because they, I don't know, were funny. Like, no, it's just true. Like, he's been making mistakes and mental flubs for a very long time.
I said on my Instagram and your story, and I said, like guys, like, really, like, if this was our grandfather, we would not let him out the house.
Yeah,
like,
it's sad.
It is sad, right? So I was like, all the mess ups, all the brain farts, the falling down. I was just like, I was with my 80. How old is Grandpa Ralph? 84 yesterday. Still drives. But I hadn't been with him for a little bit, and I was like, man, my grandpa's getting pretty old. Like, he's a little rickety right there, right? And I was thinking, but he's still sharp in his mind, talking to us. We're like, okay, taking pictures, cool. But I was thinking, if I saw Grandpa falling, if I saw Grandpa being incoherent and just rambling and kind of just not all that, doing the hand thing, like, I would say, like, hey, Grandpa's not doing good.
Yeah. And
I think, like, a lot of people just, like, they didn't want to see it. They didn't want to see it, and it was like, it's right there.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I buy that. I think they did see it and just chose that,
Yeah,
well, he's
yeah.
better than Donald Trump, which again is weird to me, but I do think people were covering it up for a very long time. Remember, this is, I think, in his first year, he did a town hall with Anderson Cooper where he just like froze up. Do you remember the horse memes where he was just frozen up like this?
Yes.
Like that. Everybody saw it there.
Yeah.
2/3 of his own party doesn't want him to run.
Yeah.
And so, like, this weird thing that the debate was all of a sudden the catalyst. Well, we had no idea. Like, get out of here. Like, get out of here with that.
Why did they bail on him after that? What I mean, it was like it was as soon as it was over. Charlie went on, and it was like tweet after tweet after tweet that Democrats were just like, yeah, he needs to stop.
Well, I think because the debates weren't scheduled in a way that made sense. Debates don't usually happen until like way past the conventions and into the fall. So when they first announced the debate, my political consultant tinglings were like, all right, somebody's doing something.
Some strategy.
Why are they doing this so soon? Like, is it to get him off, to get him out? Because, you know, if the debate happens in a normal timeline and they can hide him until then, until mid-October, early October, then, well, there's nothing you can do now.
Or maybe they thought he'd do good, and then they'd hide him later.
I was going to say, oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
They knew he was going down quick.
Yeah,
let's
that's
see
a
if he
good point.
has one last one. Let's shoot him up. No, I'm just kidding. But but let's put him out there, and hopefully he survives and just does an
that's a good point.
okay
That's a good
job.
theory.
And then we hide him for the rest of the. You know, he doesn't do it again.
Yeah, that's a good theory too.
You know, we'll say he got COVID on the next debate time.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see that happening too. There was something going on. The planning of the debate was a tactical decision. Whether it was, hey, let's get him out sooner before he goes completely off the rails, or like, let's see if he sinks or swims. Because if we schedule it this early, he's either going to do fine and we can quell some of those concerns, or he's going to go down in a blaze, and that's ended up what ended up happening. The thing that I think is the most fascinating about this new revelation yesterday of when he got out is the fawning. Joe Biden is a hero. Like, what a good patriot and American to step down. Look, you know, you don't get credit for doing the thing that is the only option you have left. He might maybe, and maybe I would even concede to this, maybe he gets credit if he steps down way sooner and lets a traditional primary go through. But you don't get credit for conceding to threats.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Like if you're, I don't know, what's a good example of this?
You got punked, right? He got punked by his party.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, okay, I'm out. And I think like it was like, and then they said, oh, good job by stepping down.
Yeah.
Now, you guys punked this guy.
Yeah.
And then you're saying how great he is. I think that was the thing for me. I was like, dude, like, what? Do you think that the parting shot for him was endorsing Kamala? Because he said he wasn't going to do it at first.
I don't think what I saw happen was that the statement, and I could be wrong on this, what I saw was that the statement came from the official White House.
So did he write it?
Well, so there's some campaign rules in there, meaning that you can't endorse particular candidates from the official White House capacity.
Okay.
So like KJAP, the spokesperson, can't say certain things because they fall into the campaign versus the actual official capacity. So I think he didn't endorse her because I think the original letter came from the official White House. And then on his own,
because they didn't have the seal on that.
Because you can't endorse from the official capacity. So I think that's what happened. I don't think there was like really much confusion. Now, I can be convinced he still is not aware that he resigned. Like I don't actually know, and I don't think there's a very likely chance of that happening. But I again can be convinced if certain things transpire.
Do you think since he can't run for re-election, he should step down now?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the good American thing to do. And I say this more of like, at the end of the day, partisan politics is what it is. I don't care who is the president if China decides to go into one of their neighboring countries, I want the U.S.'s best interest to be looked after. I don't care if the president is Hillary freaking Clinton. Like, I want her to do well in that situation.
Of course.
In the same goes for Israel, Hamas. Same goes for Russia, Ukraine. Same goes for Iran and all of the other enemies they have around the world. At the end of the day, that is the priority. And so, I don't know, from a partisan politics standpoint, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just an interesting kind of dynamic to be in, and I don't know if anybody likes it.
It's surreal.
Yeah.
It's very surreal. Everything is just Trump with the bandage and Biden about, it's just like, and it happened so fast for everybody. I mean, from the debate to Trump, I mean, it seemed like it was only a couple weeks. I know it's probably longer than that, but it just seemed like things happened fast, and it was almost like a weird, bad movie.
Somebody posted a thing where it just said, I miss precedented times. Like, everything is unprecedented. Every day is unprecedented. And having some sort of consistency in normalcy is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of crazy going on is...
Since COVID, you think it's not going to get crazier, and then we take one more step closer to crazier.
I wonder why that is. Like, I wonder if it's the internet. Because the internet is not the first new way of communicating. You know what I mean? So, in other words, through the history of Western civilization, there have been big junctures in time where there's new technology and information moves faster.
Sure.
For example, like the printing press. The printing press was just as much of a disruptor as the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it in comparison, but it was.
Yeah.
And so those people survived that crazy twist in the way they did their lives. So what I'm saying is, I don't know how much you can attribute solely to the internet, solely to better and faster communications. What I think there's a cultural thing that I think a lot of people are missing that I think is probably more responsible for the craziness, the chaos.
Is it because it's just quick? Nobody's researched. You see somebody tweet something and you take it for facts, and then you go and repeat it to your whole family at the barbecue, and then they go.
Yeah.
And then it just be like, oh. I mean, there was craziness, even the other day, right? So when Trump got hit, it was like, here's the shooter, and it was like some Arab guy, and I was like, oh. And then it was this other white kid, and I was like, that's not him. It's this kid. And then it just travels fast. But if you don't actually look into it and say, okay, who is the actual guy? You could spread some information for a few days that's totally wrong.
The first 48 hours after a terrible thing happens, most things are wrong. And that is a thing that I really, really hate about really just the media. But it honestly, conservative media is a lot of it. A lot of people that I know just want to be first, want to be first to the thing.
True.
And not to say these people don't necessarily have big followings, but it's the first person that can get to this. And whether or not it's right seems to be irrelevant. It's just they got there first because they can always issue a correction. And so with that...
Not always.
Yeah, not always. Yeah.
Juicy Smollett tweet from Kamala still up.
Yeah. Yeah, which...
All bad.
Yeah, that's...
But almost to that point, right?
Yeah,
you want to be first.
And I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good just to be first for the sake of being first. Just cool it for a second. Now, obviously, everybody wants information. Everybody wants... But, okay, well, then you can make the argument, and I'm going to argue against myself here, that the legacy media that always was the one dependent on getting things right has just ruined their credibility.
Yeah.
So, what option do you have? You can't just sit around and wait for NBC because they've gotten dang near everything wrong, too, in the last couple of years. So, maybe that's what has given way to this online culture of just run with it without, getting multiple sources or checking that your sources are actually sources. There's so much that goes into it, and I don't know. This is back to the kind of broader point of things have gone crazy so just in the last couple years. it's a societal, cultural shift into how we do things. And I don't think a lot of it is due to the technology, even though that's the easy way to point the finger. I don't know.
So my thing is, it's so hard to get young people to come to that side. I don't know. Maybe you see something different. I know your Turning Point is working on a lot of that, but is it still difficult as it was, let's say, when you first started a few years ago?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, for the younger culture, interestingly enough, they are going way more conservative than you wouldn't think that from the media, but I want to say, like, in registration, Republicans have like a 26-point edge on people 26 and younger, which I only remember that statistic because it's both 26, but there's a lot of variables in there, like, well, independents or people who are unregistered, Republican versus Democrat isn't really a good picture of the whole thing. What if they are overwhelmingly libertarian? Like, so at the end of the day, there's a lot of variables with it, but it still isn't this overwhelming onslaught of lefty politics. And I think a lot of the reason is, and I hate to get super philosophical or even religious, but at the end of the day, reality bats last. Like, there are...
I love that.
True. If you read, and by that I mean, like, take in the classic works of Western literature, you'll notice that the themes are all consistent. Like, at the end of the day, human nature is a reality.
Right.
And you can try to deviate from it as much as possible, but at the end of the day, you won't. You can't. It's not possible. And you can extrapolate that into arguments against socialism, communism, all of these isms that people think are possible.
Right.
But, like, reality bats last, and there's no good way to circumvent human nature, which I think a lot of the younger generation is seeing and going, okay, wait. So the feminist or sexual revolution happened, and are people better off? Well, no. Okay, so maybe we don't do that. And that goes with a bunch of other issues.
Right.
Is that I think people are smart enough to recognize the patterns that have existed since the dawn of time. And all that's going to do is revert back to, I don't even want to say a conservative lifestyle, even though that's probably the correct term, but more of a fundamentally sound, human nature driven lifestyle. Like, the West has devised a culture that has led to better outcomes for more people. And the more you deviate from that, the worse things get, which I think is evident. Yeah. And the more you revert back to the similar values that date all the way back to biblical times, but even past that into the ancient Romans, the ancient Greeks, you really start to understand, okay, so times change, but people don't. And once you recognize that, you kind of start to have a better understanding of, okay, so this thing that we tried in this arc of time didn't work. We're going to recenter again. And maybe they've gone off a different direction in the last, 50, 60 years. Let's recenter and go and get back to that.
I think it's a great point. I think it's gotten so bad that they're like, whoa, this is nothing like maybe grandma and grandpa or even their parents experience. Now it's just like, can't afford a house, friends are dying from fentanyl or whatever. Everything's so much. What am I going to do? Like, what? And so they look to one way and they're like, that's not the way no more. Like, let's try to go back to maybe a little bit more conservative. I don't know.
Here's just as an example, and this I think is a good premise for how people kind of misidentify problems in a way that leads them to a solution that isn't realistic. I know that was a wordy way of saying this, but for example, the idea of feminism versus masculinity, right? This is a centerpiece of human civilization and human culture and human nature. There's no getting around those two things. In reality, right? So the big talking point for, screw that, forget it, we're going to do it our own way, is that this whole idea of the patriarchy and men, running things, whatever. If it's explained in that way, I can see people falling for it. But the problem is, in the real world, the way that the priorities are viewed are actually flipped. In other words, people think, oh, the patriarchy, or oh, men rule the world. Okay. If you back all the way up, what is the point of being a human, right? And philosophers have argued about this since the beginning of philosophical thought, and there's no real answer to it. But I think the closest people get is continuing the species, right? If you can continue the species, that's the whole point.
The basic.
Okay. If that's the goal, who is more important in that scenario? If you have a tribe with...
If you really are
yes,
sincere and you really mean business, you're and really be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Women are the pinnacle of importance. If you have a tribe with 10 men and 10 women, you can lose 9 of the men. Who cares? Like, whatever. Go send them out to go pick bananas off the tallest tree or whatever you need to go hunting. Because outside of, the traditional way of doing things, just from brute animalistic behavior, you need one guy.
Yeah.
If you lose 9 of those women, you're screwed.
Okay. Okay. So to continue the species, that's true.
Yeah. Continue the species.
Okay.
No. There's obviously good ways of doing that and bad ways of doing
I
that.
know that.
But the base foundation is women are the most important thing.
Okay. What we kind of seen that though the other day.
In what way?
The Secret Service ladies trying to protect Trump.
Oh, that's not that's not like, I wouldn't say that that's their priority in life. Like,
that was the wrong priority though, right?
Yeah,
totally.
Like, totally. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Like, well, and it doesn't even need to be women. Like, imagine if it's a dude who's 5'2" protecting Trump. No shade against short kings, but like,
No.
Elon said it best. Is, okay, this isn't a man or women thing. It is a smaller person trying to protect a bigger person,
a very bigger guy.
What are we supposed to do with that?
But your point is,
well, the point is that we've looked at this process as, well, men get to do X, Y, Z, and that's
Okay.
bad. Well, yeah, sure. Men get to have various jobs and various responsibilities. But there's really only one job that actually matters. There's only one job that people need to have. It's birthing kids.
Yes.
If the goal is to continue the species,
Gotcha.
that's the one job that matters.
Yeah.
I can do an entire myriad of things in my working life and career. And the thing that will be the most important is my wife's having our kids and raising the kids.
Yeah.
And that's not...
and your name going on.
Yeah, well, just the species in general going on.
Yeah.
But if you look at it as, well, men do all of these things, like, yeah, that's true. But what good is any of those things if no one's around the next generation?
And who are we doing? And who are we doing it for?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I fixed the car, my wife's car.
Yeah.
I go to work.
Yeah.
I provide. If something happens in the middle of the night, I get up.
Yeah, because you're expendable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, right? Yeah. I mean, that's part of what we do.
Well, and so, throughout kind of the deciding what is the best way to go about continuing the species, that's, I tend to believe in Christian values that say, one man, one woman.
Sure.
But that's the best way to do the one thing you're supposed to do. Not necessarily the only way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would argue for it, but there are multiple ways to do that one thing, and the only thing that you can't get around is the one job that actually matters. And so all of that is to say that I understand the development of theories of like, well, men are oppressive or take the patriarchy and all that stuff. I understand that. But if you couch your understanding in the one thing that actually matters, it's way more difficult to go down that road without understanding, hey, the reason we're all here is this.
Right.
Like my
Well, I think what the problem probably with that is that most of those women don't want to have kids.
I don't understand that.
The ones that argue that the most, that men are the patriarchy and men are this, men are that, are women that are usually man haters.
Before I had a kid, I think I would have told you I understood that. I wouldn't necessarily be like, I would be like, I understand. Now, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand at all. Like, my perspective on things has shifted so much. And I understand that this is not like a revelation. Like, you have kids and your perspective changes. Like, whoa, not the first person that this has happened to. But my priority is now get home. Mm-hmm. When I've been touring with Charlie and Candace and Turning Point for now about 3 years and 2 years. And since our daughter was born, well, before that, it was, I'll get out there day early in case there's flight mix-ups, and then I'll kind of mosey on back home. Now it is, I'll leave in the morning day of. Like, there's been times where I've gotten in from the airport and then 20 minutes later gone on stage, spoke, and then I'm on a flight that night. Like, that's
Priorities
my priority.
Change.
Yeah, priority changes a lot. And especially from my wife's perspective. My wife is I think a high achieving, like, she's a therapist. She works at a jail and like does some, what I think is a pretty important work. Yeah. And even this go-getter, who I think my wife is, in the career world, goes, hanging out with my daughter's way better. Like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I feel it too.
Yeah, it's different.
But if you're looking at it as like, if you look at the entire priority of life as like career driven, like, well, you're missing the point altogether. And if you're missing the point altogether, you're going to go down some weird roads. And circling back to like how to convince the youth, I think they're watching an entire generation that did that and went down these weird, like, oh, cool, I'm the CFO of some accounting firm. I'm, man or woman, 50 years old, not married with no kids.
Yeah.
What now?
Nothing.
Good for you, but what now? And I think it's pretty evident to the younger generation that, like, oh, that looks like it sucks. And that's why when Tucker says, get married too early and have more kids than you can afford, people are like, like, those people are happier than the 55-year-old career person that, hates their life.
Good point. I get it.
That was a strong deviation from, I think, what we were originally talking about.
Yeah, who cares? This is what it's all about right here. Okay, so do you think the Republican Party was like the party of, let's just say, Christians?
Yeah,
they're not so much anymore. Would you agree with that statement? I'm not saying they're the only party that they left for them to vote for, but what I'm saying is, has there been a shift there?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, yeah, but I also, and maybe this is, I'm too close to it, but I also see it shifting back. Like, I think there was a big, especially during the Obama years, where it felt like, oh, everything can be good even if we aren't a Christ-centered society or Christ-centered culture. And it seemed like that. I could see how it seemed like that, especially during the Obama years. But I think there's a big reversion kind of back to more traditional values, in kind of in line with what we were just talking about. Just like, I think people see, oh, that didn't work. And therefore, maybe we need to kind of go back to the centuries-old ideas that did work, or at least were more effective.
Right.
And so it's hard, especially when you have constitutionally the separation of church and state, to outwardly talk about Christian values and Christian ideas, but at the same time, that's where all the values come from anyway. So it's kind of hard to get around that. So I don't know that it's any less. Are you at all referring to Harmeet Dillon doing
No.
her Hindu? It was a Hindu
No,
or some
I
Indian
mean,
prayer?
yeah, I saw.
Yeah,
I saw that
anything.
after. I didn't think anything.
I didn't think any of it. I was in the room. I was like, yeah, this is different.
Yeah, different,
But it's
I
fine.
mean, they're part of the party.
Yeah, yeah,
What are you gonna do?
yeah. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think that there's.
Some people have a problem with it. I mean,
Yeah, but those people have a problem with everything.
But what are you gonna do? I
Yeah.
mean, you're gonna say you can't be here if you're not.
I'm really hesitant to say too much, but there's a. I won't get into that.
All right.
There's people going back to the Amber Rose thing. There's people that perfect is the enemy of that's still pretty good, and they'll die on that hill. And I just wonder, like, is the thing that you're upset about a net negative, or is it still a net positive but not perfect? And if it's a net positive, you're going in the right direction. Let's maybe not try and blow up the road on the way there.
Right.
I don't know.
Is there a difference between a conservative and a Republican?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What's the difference? 'Cause a lot of people. I always tell people I'm conservative,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people Republican. I'm like, it's different.
Yeah,
Is it different like Democrat and liberal?
I would say so. I would say, well, to go back to this, there's a difference between conservative and Republican, because Republican is a party, and the party carries on the ideals of the populace. Conservative, on the other hand, depending on how conservative you are, I'm very conservative, and I would have said my outlook towards government is more libertarian, but personally, I'm much more like I'm pretty buttoned down conservative. But there are things that the party is willing to do that I wouldn't be willing to do. And I don't know that's a bad thing, but it is a distinction. For example, Trump, who is the Republican platform guy, Trump is much more okay with abortion, for example,
Yeah, that was one
in some circumstances,
Sure.
than I am. Does that mean that I'm not going to vote for him? Well, okay, what's the alternative? Okay, the alternative is that. All right, so yeah, I'm still going this direction.
And Charlie said that too.
Well, and this is back to the wielding power. Like, you have to, if the country is not there, it's not the job of the Republicans to lose with righteous indignation. It's not the job of the Republicans to lose righteously. It is the job of the conservatives in the culture to shift the culture.
Right.
And if you can shift the culture, then the party can do whatever it wants effectively. And hopefully whatever it wants is where the culture is. But right now, the culture is not there. And that's not the fault of the party for taking a weaker stance. The party's trying to win. It's the job of the people in the culture to move it.
Great point.
And that's why I'm such a big church guy. And there's a bunch of churches that I think have some pretty big flaws. And I'm not shy about saying that. But at the end of the day, they're the culture shifters. They're the culture movers. And if we want to win politically, you have to move the culture. Culture or politics is downstream of culture, and it always will be. And if you change the culture enough,
Those things will fix themselves,
well,
right?
it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Okay, so I mean, to get really conservative, you know what almost eliminates the entire abortion conversation as a whole? Not, having a circus in the sheets before you're married.
Simple.
To put it politely,
Right.
Like if you eliminate that, then we're not even this whole conversation doesn't
Right.
even exist.
Or even if I don't agree with this, but even if you use protection,
Yeah.
so we don't have to even
There's-
argue that.
Yeah, there's cultural touchstone that are more important than
There's
the
speed
political.
bumps. There's a whole bunch of speed bumps before we get to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, if you move the culture enough, that it's not even a talking point anymore.
No.
It doesn't matter.
I agree.
And so that's where the delineation between Republican and conservative is like it's the job of the conservative to move the needle, and then the Republican, the party that wants to win, to meet the culture where it's at.
And that's what I feel like I pray for revival in the country. I'm a Christian. Pray for revival in the Lord, save people. Change their hearts. If you change the hearts of men, the politics stuff
Doesn't matter.
will fix itself. Because the heart it'll be changed. So we don't have to worry about all that other stuff. If they're believers, they change their ways, they're living right, they're raising their kids the right way. This will affect the party.
And there's a, not to go on another like philosophical diatribe,
Diatribe.
Yeah, like a rant about.
I love your words, dude. I'm gonna have to go and look these up sometimes.
The biggest point of injunction, whatever, the biggest divider at this point in time is the priorities of what people see. So the lefty side of things at this point in time sees power as the ultimate thing. And they talk about power dynamics. They talk about critical theory is big on this. It is the separation of people by their positions of power. And that's where you get like intersectionality and the almost comical charts effectively of, well, who's the most oppressed? Okay, well, this is a gay white man versus a straight black person, so they're kind of even. But if it's a black transgender lesbian, they have less power,
That's
so they're
right.
more oppressed, so they get more power. But this whole thing is a function of who has power and who doesn't. What I would say to that is your priority is all out of whack. Having power, historically speaking, looks like it sucks a lot. And I hate to like, just go off of the thing that I'm reading currently, but I've gotten into Josephus quite a bit, who's a biblical times historian, and he was writing on Herod, who not different Herod than sent Jesus to death. That was Herod's son, but like the original Herod that kind of consolidated Judea and that whole area that is now Israel. He had all of this power given to him by the emperor of Rome, and his life was terrible. Like, it sucked a lot. Like, he had like 2 of his wives killed. He had 2 of his sons killed. He was always on edge, trying to like figure out who's trying to stab him in the back next. And like, yeah, he had all this power, but he was miserable the whole time.
Watch any mob movie.
Yeah, like it doesn't.
You're worried about getting whacked every day.
Yeah, and so this idea that like, well, power structures are the thing that we should focus on. If this person doesn't have power, we need to take the power from this person, and the only way we can take that power from this person is to assume all the power ourselves. Like that is going off of the assumption that you want power. Right. I don't want power. I mean, everybody wants power, but I understand the
responsibility.
The responsibility and the relationship that you have to have with the power that you do get. And that fundamental point right there is where you get a lot of the split from, people that call themselves progressive or liberal, who are trying to balance the power out, which is impossible, by the way, and the people that are focused primarily on themselves and not necessarily how they interact with other people. I say this too, and this kind of goes to that point. At the end of the day, I care who wins in all of the elections. But at the end of the day, it really isn't going to affect my life that much, because that's not where everything is based. Like, everything that I have is based in a value system, and that value system isn't going to break down depending on who's my congressman or who's the president of the United States. I'm going to be fine. Obviously, I would like things to go one way or another, but most of the change that I've seen that have been instituted by people in power in my lifetime has been incremental. And the people that have their lives go off the rail and go astray and have no moral compass or no guidelines whatsoever, who put a lot of their faith in these political figures, the people who win elections have nothing to do with that. It's entirely based on how you live your life. And if you live your life in a decent way, sticking to a moral code of ethics, a guideline, in my case, a religion, it doesn't matter who's the president.
Right.
It does, but it's not like that.
It shouldn't throw you that off.
It's not going to.
Right.
Yeah. But if you're not based in kind of that moral compass, yeah, and you put your entire faith, hope, future into the hands of a politician, one, the politician's always going to let you down, and two, yeah, that's going to have a much bigger sway on your life than, somebody who just is doing fine on their own.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know. Since the last time we talked, I got so into like these different philosophers in the West, like starting from like Nietzsche over onto like all the way to Foucault.
Deep now.
Yeah, because it really it illuminates where culture is going.
It's weird because those when you read stuff like that, it's even when you read the word. Somebody tried to tell me that the word wasn't relevant to these times, and I go, "What do you mean?"
Person's
like,
an idiot.
yeah, like I'm like, it's very relevant.
Yeah.
Nothing new is under the sun.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we think that this is brand new. We think that the struggle of power is brand new. We think that all the stuff that's happening is brand new. It seems new to us. It's probably new in our lifetime, but over the history of time, it's probably happened at least 10 times.
Well, and two, people want to talk about like mentors and I don't know, people that'll give them the hacks to life.
Coaches.
Well, yeah, coaches. The West and the culture that the West has built and the literature that has come out of the West, from, like I said, ancient Greeks through the Romans to biblical times to medieval Europe, all of that is all of the advice from the smartest people in those ages compiled, and it's all pretty consistent. And so to say that you've got it figured out, oh, no, trust me, I got this one. Like, all right, so you're smarter than everybody else who's ever existed?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then, there are some people that, like, not to get into the, wow, that's too big of a rabbit hole. Basically, yeah, these people think that, like, oh, well, trust me, like, we've got it now. Like, you don't.
No.
And we'll let you kind of go do your thing for however long you want to do your thing for. But at the end of the day, it comes back, reality bats last. And you're not going to get away from human nature.
Okay. Now you as a father.
Yeah.
They just knew signed some.
Yeah.
Let's see, California AB 1955, where school doesn't have to let, from kindergarten to 12th grade, anything about your kid wanting to transition doesn't have to let you know as a parent.
To my understanding, that's a public school thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then I hate to sound like pompous and arrogant, but like I already knew my kid wasn't going to go to public school.
Right.
Like we're not going to risk the education of our child with the mobster that is the teachers union.
No.
Like, so I hate to sound like dismissive of it, but like it's not a problem I'm going to have to deal with.
No.
And if it is, I'll just move. I have the resources. Like that sounds elitist in the sense, but it's
that extreme, right? Where you say like, no, they're not. She's not going to go to that public school.
Yeah,
and if it got that bad, then we'd move.
Yeah, and the only reason we have the ability to do that is because the moral guidelines / lifestyle we have. But yeah, like that stuff. I mean, politics and legislation seems to be like a road where a car is careening from guardrail to guardrail. And at this point in time, it's gone so far over to the left guardrail, like it has to come back. Like there is going to be a piece of legislation, and maybe this one is it, that's going to get people to go.
I think this one was it, because then you're messing with moms and their kids, and moms want to know if their kid how did they scrape their knee at school today? And now you're saying they can't tell them about something this
So my
extreme.
understanding too, and this is I think going to be like a budgeting thing that people are going to have to reckon with, or the state will. I think during COVID, because so many people were pulling their kids out of school and not doing the pretend Zoom class that didn't work for anybody, there was some piece of, it was either legislation or it was like a directive from the Board of Education or something like that, that said the schools can't lose money based on attendance, right? So people who don't understand how schools get money, they take attendance every day, which is why you take attendance, and then that attendance is submitted to the state, and if you have enough kids showing up to your school consistently, you get a check for that kid for the year. That is the kind of the premise of charter schools as an option of, okay, well, if that regular school just gets this amount of money per kid, if my kid shows up every day, why can't I go to another school and they just get the same amount of money? Like, that would incentivize schools to be better. It would create competition. To my understanding, that went out the window during COVID because the teachers' unions were scared of the schools losing funding, and so they are no longer beholden to the number of students they have in order to get their money from the state. Stuff like this is only going to exacerbate kids getting pulled out of public school.
Right.
And eventually, there's going to be a reckoning with, all right, this school, because of legislative pieces like this, and because of all the craziness, this school that has 1,000, the school that the state is paying for 1,000 kids to go to has 58 kids. What's happening?
Yeah.
And how do we, what happens
How do we get them
there?
back?
And how do we get them back? But also, too, like, somebody's, like, there's going to be a lawsuit somewhere. There's going to be
I
taxpayers.
think there is already.
I'm sure there's a ton.
Yeah.
But not even necessarily for this specific legislation, but for, like, the taxpayers. Like, you pay property tax, I pay property tax. Our property taxes are primarily the thing that fund the schools. And if nobody's going to the schools, and yet they're still making the same amount of money,
right.
All right, now there's a new thing that I'm worried about that I'm sure people are going to be on the brink of just not participating anymore. And so, like, this, as crazy as it is, and again, I don't want to dismiss it, just seems kind of like another stepping stone towards the inevitable of people just going, all right, I'm out.
Going beyond the
Like,
guardrail.
yeah, see it. Like, or careening back to it.
I kept saying that. I kept saying that. When everything was happening, I was like, you can. I was trying to tell, especially young Christian, young adults, like, because they were like leaning a little bit to the left. Oh, what's wrong with that? So look, man, you go that way, you can never be woke enough.
You can't. It's not possible.
It'll keep going, and it'll keep going a lot. You might be right, because it makes sense, because a lot of them are like, kind of coming back to at least center, and a little bit to the right, but they realize, like, it's going over the edge. And then a lot of them started having kids.
Yeah.
So then their whole thing really changed. Like, oh, this whole woke thing that I thought was cool over here, and I was, hey, standing with this group and standing with that group, and now it's like, oh, I can't buy a house, or my kids are going to school. What the heck? And now they're coming back. And I hate to say this, but like, I lost a lot of friends because of that. And I want to, I really want to text them and say, hey, how's everything going?
I was going to say, isn't it so bad that you can't?
You can't. I can't.
I told you so.
I know. I don't want to, my flesh is like, text him now and tell him what's up.
No, but
then I'm like, no, because then I'm like,
that's part of the religious guidelines. Yeah, right. You can't
do that.
Be that boisterous about being right, even though it would be beneficial.
I feel like now it's like they're finding out themselves, and in their heart of hearts, they know, like, we messed up.
Well, this is one of the problems with stuff starting down that path, is that you're gonna have parents, and going back to kind of the transitioning kids, whatever, which I think is awful. But the hardest thing to do is admit you were wrong. And so you're going to have a lot of parents that did something that is irreversible and very wrong, obviously. But having gone that far into it, what percentage of people are going to be able to bite the bullet and go, I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to do.
For anybody.
And it's the hardest thing to do for religious people. And these people aren't like general Sunday churchgoers. Like, so how are they going to admit, like, oh yeah, this is not the best path? I don't know. And it's sad, but that's the whole argument against not going down that path in the first place.
Crazy, man.
So I don't know. As far as California goes, I have this theory, and I don't have any polling to back it up.
Okay.
But there's always internal polling being done. In California, I'm really curious to see what the turnout is going to be in November. And the reason I'm curious about that is because one of the bigger, more compelling pieces to get Joe Biden out, one of the more compelling pieces for Democrats to subvert democracy and the vote of their people, was Adam Schiff, who is a congressman in L.A.
Yeah.
He's running for Senate.
Running against Steve Garvey.
He was one of the bigger voices, him probably at the behest of Nancy Pelosi, saying Joe Biden needs to get out. Now, why he would be doing that is interesting to me. Because common knowledge would tell you that race is a lock, that the Senate race in California is going to go Dem. Okay, well then why would somebody stick their neck out and say the sitting U.S. president needs to get out of the race? Well, because I think it's possible that some of the internal polling was saying, oh, shoot, nobody is going to show up for Joe Biden and vote, especially in a state like California where it's reliably blue. Now, does that mean the presidential candidate loses California? Probably not.
A down ticket.
But I wonder if there was some internal polling that showed, all right, the enthusiasm for Joe Biden is 0. What does that mean for a usually reliable Senate race? And if it's within a couple points, or at least not where he thinks it should be, I could see Adam Schiff going out and saying, oh, hold on, this is going to affect me.
Right.
You need to get out, which I think is a broader way of saying how some of this legislation is going to affect races going forward. Because all of the politicians, their only goal is to get reelected and maintain power. And if the policy is so bad, such as this new parents don't have to tell teachers or teachers don't have to tell parents anything bill, I think you're going to see stuff go down a road that is so bad that they're going to reverse course. Like, I think there's a possibility that Adam Schiff is even the slightest bit worried about Steve Garvey because, like we said, the guardrail has been hit and smashed into, and people are going to start going back. And that scares politicians to death.
So it's a positive. Even if Garvey comes within striking reach.
I don't think he's going to win. But I think it says something that Schiff, during his race, said, all right, we need to this is getting crazy. We need to get Joe Biden off the ticket.
I think I saw within the last month to 2 monts, he's raised more money. I don't know how Steve.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
I don't know how whoever gave it to him or wherever that came in from. It could have been Elon Musk dropped it in his.
It's going to be a turnout thing. It's going to be a turnout thing. You know what? You know what my out there in left field strategy. I think Trump should pull his name off of the California ballot, just from an election strategy standpoint. Because think about it, he's not going to win. Donald Trump is not going to win California. So what's the point of having your name on the ballot if you're not going to win?
So don't play if you're not going to win?
No, well, kind of. RFK is on the ballot. Now, RFK, name recognition, former Democrat, also saying some pretty smart things that a lot of people think. Now,
his pops died here?
Yeah. You either have Trump, RFK, and it's looking like Harris. Trump, RFK, and the main Democratic nominee on the ticket in California. If that's the case, no shot that the Democrat isn't going to win running away. If the Democrat wins running away, what do? They never come here. They don't spend any money here. They don't spend time here. They don't spend resources here. If Trump pulls his name off of the California ballot, that leaves the Democratic nominee and RFK. Now, are they concerned about losing it? Probably not, but they're not as sure as they once were. And so they're going to, Kamala probably, spend time, resources, and money in the state, which takes away time, resources, and money from other states, which, in my opinion, considering how unlikely it is for Trump to win California, is a good bet. Because if Kamala Harris spends 10 more nights here than she does in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, any of the other swing states, that's a good thing for the Republican campaign.
Maybe she'll go to the border.
No, there's no... That's out of the question. That's not even close to...
That would be extreme, but I think that's kind of what they need.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
I mean, you got to play a little different.
Well, I don't think... I don't think they're actually expecting Kamala to win. I think Kamala is such a bad candidate that I think a lot of the actual power players, like Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, any of these other Democratic governors who want the 2028 election, they just want her out of the way.
I think there's a couple of things with that. I think, number one, they kind of stepped on their own toes because they couldn't jump a woman of color.
Oh yeah,
right. So they could. Well, what were they going to jump her with?
I mean, I was
you're gonna
on
put
that side.
So you're gonna put Newsom in there, and then be like, and then you could throw it at her. You could throw it at the whole Democratic Party's face and say, "Oh, so you guys did what you always say, what everybody else does."
I mean,
you jumped a woman of color for this white man.
I tweeted that if they don't pick Kamala Harris, they're both racist and sexist. Because that's true.
I thought the same thing, and then I thought it's not looking good either way.
Yeah.
They have to put her there.
Yeah.
They're not going to put one of their upcoming stars.
No, because then they risk losing.
Then they risk losing.
Yeah.
Right. So they bear with it. Maybe they win the House and win that back and shore that up. And then they say, well, just take it on the chin for 4 years and hopefully we can just disrupt like last time. And then it's done.
There's no person in the country that wanted Donald Trump to win in 2020 more than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom wanted Trump to win so bad
so he can go against
in 2040.
Yeah.
Well, so that this year, this cycle, Trump would be turned out and he would be a sitting governor of the most populous state in the union running for the Democratic nomination, which he probably would have won because Kamala Harris would have lost with Joe Biden in 2020. Now, he's got to either jump in now, which is not good, and he won't, or he has to wait till 2028 when he is a former governor that's kind of been off the radar. Nobody's going to, and especially if Trump wins this cycle, it's not like he's going to get a job in the administration. Like if the Democrat won, then he could be like, I don't know, like the ambassador to the UN or something like that and stay kind of in the limelight.
Be on the team.
He is going to be out of the picture for a long time, politically speaking, before 2028.
So we'd have 2 wins pretty much.
Well, I don't know about that.
And he's still stick around. I mean, he's going to be there. And people are so dumb that, he has nice hair.
Yeah, he's going to be in his 60s. He's not going to be like a young, cool guy anymore. He's going to be this old dude. And on the other side, you're going to have J.D. Vance, who's going to be 43. Like, he's 39 years old.
Did you think that was a good pick?
Yes, I do.
Because he was young. That's what I'm thinking. At first, I was like,
he's young, but he's so smart.
He is super smart.
He is the Pete Buttigieg on the Republican side. Pete Buttigieg, obviously, well, I disagree with a lot of stuff, but he's
transportation secretary.
Well, he's good. He's a talented orator. So he speaks really well about what he's talking about. I think he's wrong, but he also has the gay thing going for him. He's in the military. Was in the military. He's a good candidate. Mayor Pete is I think a good candidate. But then there's like J.D. Vance, who grew up dirt poor. Just dirt poor.
Mom was on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, so at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then I realized, okay, I saw the movie, I was like, poor.
Yeah.
Worked his way up. Nobody gave him anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mom was on drugs. So the whole drug epidemic we're doing, I was like, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so the visual, might be, but then you look at him next to his wife, and I'm like,
I hate that matters, but since it does, great.
Well, it's part of politics, right?
Yeah.
You got these kids.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, I mean, you can't knock this guy. Like I'm looking at him, and I'm like, and then the age thing.
Yeah.
Like you realize like he's young and he's accomplished so much, and that played a big role. Then I got it. Okay, this is not for 4 years. This is for the long haul here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and again, I don't necessarily know if there was really a bad choice. Like, of the people that were in, like Doug Burgum would have been fine. Marco Rubio would have been fine.
I thought Marco Rubio visually would have been fine. I don't like the way he speaks. He's not a great speaker, dude. You got to admit that. When he said his speech the other day, he messed up a bunch of time, and he has this little thing with his mouth, and I'm like, little Marco boy, man, come on, brother, bring it.
Interesting. I was more upset about him closing all the restaurants in California.
True.
Rubio's.
Oh.
Not actually related to him. You know what I think? You know what I think actually played a big factor in Trump picking J.D. Vance?
What's that?
Trump Vance sounds good. One syllable sounds way better. Trump Rubio. Trump Burgum. Ugh.
Yeah.
Trump, I don't know, whoever. I think Trump Vance rolls off the tongue. And
it makes sense.
As much as I think that's ridiculous that that's a part of the decision making, I think it played a role.
Okay,
I think it played a.
No, you're right, because I'm going to ask you this. Let's see if we're
JD.
thinking the same. What is the second best one?
Of name?
Of names together.
Okay, well, I have a bias in this. I would say Trump Gabbard.
No. That's bad. No, but I mean, that's one in the past and had that, like, it just went.
Oh. Obama Biden sounds fine. Trump Pence. Single syllable.
Reagan Bush.
Reagan Bush. Yeah.
Right?
It sounds
like it's somebody's real name, Reagan Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe you're right about that.
I don't know.
I didn't think about it. But Trump Vance is pretty up there. I mean, it's got to be
Bush
top 3.
Cheney doesn't sound good.
No.
That's
That's like a OnlyFans name or something.
That was a
like
military industrial complex pick. Trump Vance, as much, and I'm not trying to knock JD at all, a very accomplished, intelligent person, but I do think the single syllable name helped him out.
See, you think differently. You think like every little detail.
Well, the goal is to win.
How does it go together?
Yeah.
Like it has to be the whole package, right?
Yeah. Well, the goal is to win. And if you don't win, you don't get to do any of the things that you want to do. Like, kind of going back to the very beginning of this, like, if you can die on the hill of righteousness of everything needing to be perfect and you lose, what good did that do us?
Right.
Or you can pick apart all of the little nuances and go with a name. And I don't know. It actually is. I don't know that it actually had a very big deal.
Who knows? But I mean, there's probably somebody that brought it up.
Oh, there's somebody. Yeah,
that's what they get paid to do.
It didn't not get talked about.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying here. It did play somewhat of a role. Not saying that it was like the whole thing, but also, given Trump as a marketing person, it could have played a much bigger role than we all think. Like it could have been like, all right, good policy, like the facial hair, good name. Like that could have been the hierarchy of priorities when it came to Trump picking his VP.
Right. Let me ask you this for Melissa, and then we get out of here. Melania.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
How great is she?
How great?
Like Melissa looks at her and she's like, man, style and class.
Oh, okay.
And I'm over here like I see her. I was like, all the ladies in the place with style and grace. You know what I mean? I'm just like, how is she?
So on that front, yes, great.
Okay.
Like she handles the position that she's in very well. Now the position that she's in, there's a lot of, I don't know how much this permeates outside of like the inner circle of politics, but there's a lot of people that were there who are like, all right, have they seen each other in the last 6 months? Like, I don't know.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. That's kind of
wow.
I mean, nobody knows.
Yeah.
But she wasn't supposed to come. When she showed up.
She was only there the one night,
She was only there the one night, and when they announced her, everybody around me was like, what? As if there's just like this big shock. Like, it's not really a shock that the president's wife is there. Like, that's kind of like a, kind of a given. But that moment was like, oh, interesting, she's here. And then
Because of
she did it all well.
Because of being stuck up, maybe, or because their relationship's not as good as we think it is.
Speculation is my best guess.
Okay.
I don't actually know.
Well, we won't gossip then.
Well, but it was weird.
Is weird?
It is weird.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. But that's
They were a little awkward at the end. She walked out.
They were a little awkward.
Right?
He got scared that she was on stage with him.
He was like,
He's
hey.
whoa,
Yeah,
what are
he
you
never
doing?
does that either, right?
No.
He didn't even flinch when he got shot. But she walked up on him and he was like, oh. And then she kind of paused to go in and then he went in. And I was like, okay, that was kind of
when it kind of felt like
awkward.
it felt like he was looking for a kiss on the cheek. Maybe this is play this back. And then she kind of like went further than that. It was a little weird.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what's going on there. But to your point of like, carrying herself well. Like, she does.
I hope they're okay, man. You know what I mean? We do a little marriage coaching on the side, so maybe if they need it.
Maybe he'll hit you up. There's this is in the context too of the politicians and their wives. Like, I don't know that Bill and Hillary have slept in the same state in the last 10 years. I don't actually know that. So,
I loved him when Trump won. And then they have the meme of him looking at supposedly Ivanka forever, and he's like, and then Hillary just staring at him like, what are you looking at? I mean, that's so, I don't know if that's real. I mean, I don't know if
I think it is.
No, it's
at
real,
the
but
inauguration?
I don't know if he was staring at Ivanka like they said.
I don't know, man. Bill Clinton. There are not many rumors that I wouldn't believe. So, yeah.
Cool, man.
Good time.
I appreciate you coming out, man.
This is fun. I'm excited to have been able to talk, because we've been going through this weird transition of like, I don't know if I stopped doing the Daily Show. That was probably 6 months ago now. Just got up one day. I'm like, I don't feel like doing this anymore. And so I didn't.
Yeah.
And so anyways, all that to say, as I was telling my wife, I was like, oh, this is cool. I get to go talk about the thing that's happening, because I haven't been able to do that in a long time.
I appreciate it, man. I know your time is precious, especially with the baby and work and
everything
that's happened.
Yeah, I reconfigured the whole studio, so you'll have to come and do an episode.
Let's do it.
We've got like a
fun.
Yeah. All the things are set up now for guests, because it didn't used to be. It used to be a desk and me, and now it's like a 2-person thing, which is cool.
That'll be good.
So we're kind of transitioning into more of this stuff as opposed to the daily news. The Democrats are trying to rule America. All right,
we got one last thing, man. Furious 5. I don't know if you remember last time, but we have 5 Furious questions we ask you.
I forgot about this, but I feel like I should be prepared, even though I know it's not possible to be prepared.
No. Question number 1 on the Street Gospel Furious 5. Out of these 3, one pick for press secretary if Trump wins.
Me.
Vivek,
Me.
Candace,
Me.
or Tucker?
Me.
You.
I'm angling to be the press secretary.
You would be ready for that.
If Charlie ever runs for president, I am going to lobby so hard to be his press secretary. No, but Tucker 100%. Out of those 3, Tucker is so his writing style just gets me. He's hilarious. I got to
very good in this speech.
Chat with him for a little bit over the week, and he's a normal person, and I don't want to. He's a normal guy. He's a cool guy, and I would love to see him as the press secretary. He wouldn't do it in a million years, but it would be fun.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe for one day, like it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Just him up there, and I mean, I could just see him with no notes. Everything's off the dome, right?
He didn't do his speech.
I know.
He didn't do a teleprompter.
I was
off
like,
the cuff.
I could tell, and I was like, dude, this guy's not reading this stuff. He's coming like, I'm just gonna come out, and it was great.
This is what I think.
Yeah, he's like a good pastor, good preacher.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Best advice for young people that are getting involved in politics.
Don't. No.
That's Cam's advice right there.
Yeah. It's go in with trepidation. In other words, don't get sucked so far into this where it becomes your whole life. Because I was talking to somebody about this week who's like in the throes of like this political thing. Got caught up in one of these big stories and now is like this big national figure, and we're just kind of talking like, this doesn't need to be your whole everyday life. If you're going to, and this is outside of politics, but this is my like thought in general, if you have to get rich, God forbid famous, get married and have a family first,
right? And
then you can at least have your bearings. So yeah, to answer the question, which I realize is way longer winded than they're supposed to be, but go in with a sense of normality that this isn't your everyday. It doesn't matter that much.
Yes.
Get involved. You should 100% get involved. but don't take the stuff in 24 hours a day because I don't take it in 24 hours a day.
All right. Question number 3 on the Street Gospel Furious 5. What kind of boss is Charlie Kirk?
Ooh, interesting. I mean, he's definitely intense, and that's not a negative. This guy is juggling 15 different things at one time and somehow is able to pull it off. But you don't pull that off by like kicking back and going, "Hey, what's going on, man?" The guy is on the move 24/7, and that's he's an intense guy, which is probably exactly what we need. But I don't know. I've never had a negative moment with him.
That's good.
Yeah, there's other people in the industry that I've heard bad like office culture, but like he's intense. He comes in, he does what he needs to do, and he leaves. There's no good or bad to it. It just is what it is. But I've never had like a negative experience.
Good.
That's
all
good.
right.
Yeah.
Intense, Charlie Kirk. Question number 4 on the Street Gospel Furious 5. Is it worth going to college for young people?
Oh, it depends entirely on what you want to do.
Okay.
I wasted $100,000. I did get a wife out of it, which is a good thing. But if you want to be a doctor, a therapist,
got it for pretty cheap, 100,000.
Yeah, right. If you want to be like something that requires a degree, go to college. But like
being a lawyer, being a doctor, okay.
Yeah, I have a business degree. Like, you know what I learned in my business degree? Freaking nothing about small business. Like, I learned how to like be on the board of a Fortune 500 company, but that's 20 years down the road. I'm not doing that the second I graduate. I learned nothing about how to finance a loan for a small business, how to do, I don't know, any of the paperwork, LLC stuff. Like, I didn't learn any of that. So, depends on what you want to do. If you want to run your own thing, if you want to be a comedian, don't go to college.
Last question. We call this one number 5. It's this or that.
That.
All right. So, Tesla or Dodge Charger?
Oh, Tesla.
All the way?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. If you would have said a Tesla or like an F-150 or a truck, I would have gone with the truck.
Okay.
But like, Teslas are so fast. Like
I drove one yesterday, first time.
They're the regular Teslas, not the ludicrous speed Teslas.
No.
It's all of the torque immediately.
Yeah.
And so like the only reason I would get a sedan is to go fast. And there's nothing against Chargers, I'm sure. Like I'm not a muscle car guy.
Okay.
I don't even. There's probably somebody listening right now. Charger's not a muscle car, idiot. But in the context of me understanding cars, which is very little, to me, it's no brainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
This or that. Lucky Charms are Fruit Loops.
Lucky Charms. They got the marshmallows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3. WNBA or women's MMA?
Oh, women's MMA. Ronda Rousey was the biggest deal in sports at the time, and it had nothing to do with the fact that she was a woman. It's the fact that she was dominant.
She was good.
Yeah. Like, as soon as, if there's a WNBA team that can go beat the Lakers, like WNBA all the way.
Or go beat a good high school boys basketball team.
Or be as dominant. Like, there's,
All right. For food, Mexican or Italian?
So the other day, my wife made like this Southwest Mexican pasta,
Ooh.
which was like a fusion of both of them. I'd probably say Mexican food because
perfect timing. Fuse them both together.
Yeah, you can't get me to leave a bowl of chips and salsa. That's not. They're going to be gone. So probably Mexican.
I got a good one for you.
Yeah,
The Rock or Kid Rock?
The Rock. I mean, again, that's not bad about Kid Rock.
You got the shirt on and everything representing today.
Well, The Rock's also like a billionaire, I think, at this point.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, he's also so he knows Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
And I know Tulsi Gabbard. So I'm wondering how many connections I have to get to The Rock.
Pretty close.
It's
like 1 degree.
Oh yeah.
2 degree maybe.
And well, I'm going to get in the political leanings of The Rock, but he's taking a step back from his former
last endorsement.
Yeah. So
thanks for coming out, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Where can they find you at?
Just type in Jobob pretty much anywhere you'll be able to find it. It's not a very common name. One grandpa was Joe, the other one was Bob. That's how we had this ridiculous name. So
there's very few people like you. I mean, Cher, Prince, Jobob.
yeah, you know, I might reorder the monolithic names there. Might go with somebody like, I don't know. Now I can't think. Kobe. But Kobe also had Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, Mamba. Either one. LeBron.
LeBron's
I hate
cool.
to admit it, but yeah, it's one
cool
name.
name.
It's one
Cool
name.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, man, appreciate you coming out, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That'll conclude this episode of The Street Got. Well, look who showed up over there. How's it going, Cam? Thanks for joining us, taking over for our executive producer over there. Episode 94. We appreciate you guys. Check out Jobob, man. We love you guys. We out. Peace.